Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. This week I am really hoping to finish my Borgia's dress, which is right back there. So when we left off in last week's video, which I think this is part 4 of this project so far, so if you haven't seen those other ones, you might want to watch those first. I'll link them down in the description. But when we left off, we were working on sleeves and we had run out of beaded trim. So the beaded trim is this trim right here, and I have been getting that from Amazon, but it comes in 3.1 yard spools at a time. So far I've used 2. The third package has now arrived. So now we can continue on with these lower arm pieces where we are going to be adding our combo of the ribbon trim and the beaded trim to 2 additional places going horizontally across this, because this is how this looks right here. Once those are on, then we can also add the ribbon trim along the edges and add the buttons, which will go with these loops over here. And that means that these lower sleeve pieces will be done. Likewise, we are going to do this on the lower sleeve that goes with the poof sleeve, because if for some reason you are watching this video without having watched those other 3 videos, I am making 2 different sleeve options. So I have the fitted sleeve option, which comes in 2 of these sort of pieces here and basically turns my dress into more of a 1490s style. And then I also have the poofed sleeve option that goes together like this and makes this more of a 1530s style. And so where we are at right now was that we were waiting for that beaded trim. Since it has now arrived, I can go ahead and apply that everywhere. Beyond the remaining trim that has to go on, I've got a few more lacing rings to hand sew on, and really most of this video I think is going to be making the chemise that goes under this. So this is my chemise fabric here. This is cotton voile that I got from Fabric Wholesale Direct. It is beautifully nice and sheer. Hopefully you can see just how sheer that is in there. And I bought 5 yards of this, which should be enough. And we are going to be making this chemise based on pattern diagrams that I've seen online. It's mostly all rectangles, but we will get to this in a moment. For now, let's go ahead and apply more trim. Well, I have my beaded ribbon trim on in the center pieces now, but it is making me wonder if I regret not putting the beaded trim along the inner parts of the edge ones. I mean, like the top part also only has beaded trim along the edge. And so I feel like if I were to add it, you know, here, I would also have to undo this and add it here. And of course that means certainly an entire other package of beaded trim. So I feel like I should probably leave it as is. I'm just wondering if it is maybe that tiny little bit of lacking something. Okay, I think that since the verticals are also not going to have beads, that it's not going to look weird with these parts not having beads, because somehow putting the verticals on here is now tying it more together, which is great. I mean, I love that for me. That means I don't have to unpick a whole bunch of stuff and buy even more beads. So yeah, I think we're just going to stick with that as is. So I just finished putting the vertical strips onto both of these, but something that I found, I don't know if it is this specific pack, the one that just arrived of the beaded trim, but the beaded trim that I was using before, like that's up here, for example, if you go to take one of the big beads off and you cut the threads, you guys will have to bear with me because this is not focusing well at all. But basically with the trim that I had in the first 2 packs, if you cut the trim so that a small bead is on there as the end, it generally was not unraveling, like further beads weren't coming off. However, I have noticed, and you can probably notice it here, that this pack is not nearly as tight as fast as anything like that. So I'm going to have to now put on a bunch more beads to fill in the edges, because especially as I was stitching this down, a lot of the beads on the edges were unfortunately coming off. So I'm going to have to add probably 2 beads per end back on. So I think I will go ahead and do that next, as well as adding my buttons, because then this can be done. All of the beads are now fixed into place on the edges and the buttons are now sewn over here on the trim. So that means that this lower sleeve, this side in particular, is done. I still have to do the other side. And I've attached it with my ribbons to the top. I still need to put 2 more lacing rings on here. So that's why this isn't fully attached in, but I have put the center one on. I really like this ribbon, by the way. This is the one that was in my stash. I mentioned this in a past video. I don't have enough, unfortunately, even for just this version of the sleeve, let alone the other. It's supposedly available at my Walmart. I think I'm going to try to get more because I tried to get a dupe on Amazon and it was not a dupe. So yeah, I really, really like this. This is just Offray ribbon, but I feel like it's working really well for this, and I really like the silver metallic. So that should be good. Those are just tied in double knots right now, but I need to try it on and actually make sure that they're right length. I'm going to obviously do the same thing on the other lower sleeve. However, let's turn our attention to the chemise. So I am largely using Festive Attire's tutorial and blog post for this chemise. So I will link that down below in the description so that you can go check that out. I am of course adjusting the dimensions because we're not the same size. I am both taller and larger. I'm also working with fabric that is not the width of either of the fabrics that she shows. Like, it's not 45, it's not 60, it's 53. And so that means that her pattern layouts don't exactly work for me. I really wish this was 60 inches wide, and maybe it started out that way because I noticed that at the very least the length shrank like 5 inches in the wash, because this was supposedly 5 yards. It is now 5 inches short of 5 yards. So I have a little bit less to work with here. And also this is obviously cotton, not linen. Yes, it would have been linen historically speaking. I don't like linen, and linen is expensive. I don't like wearing linen. I don't like sewing with linen. I like cotton. Cotton is nice, so we're using cotton. I will link this down below in the description too. This is from Fabric Wholesale Direct, like I mentioned before. And so let's talk about the dimensions that I am using. So I actually thought that her length of this was a little bit long, even for me, even though I'm taller. Basically, I want mine to hit about mid-calf. Maybe they were longer, but that feels impractical to have it any longer. Most of my chemises are actually significantly shorter than that and tend to hit like above the knee. But since we have enough fabric, we're gonna go ahead and do it. The body, like the front and the back, they are going to be one width across, which is 53 inches. I honestly wish it was more because I feel like that is just not very gathered on me. And obviously that means it's sheer. We don't want it to be completely sheer at the bust. So what I'm actually going to do is the front, I am going to flip over and have a little piece inside like this so that it's 2 layers and I have a nice fold up at the top, because I mean, well, let's be honest, on this dress you can see that that is still sheer, but once it is fully gathered up, that should be a lot less sheer. That's my hope. And also it will give us a nice clean edge for the top to run our like gathering and make into a ruffle, etc. at the top. For the sleeves, I've determined that I think I want about 40 inches wide to go around for each sleeve. That will be just a single layer, but it'll be about 40 inches wide and 39 inches long. I don't know why I didn't do it 40 by 40, but that's what I measured out, because basically I took my measuring tape, started at the shoulder, but then kind of made a puff at the shoulder and then went down towards my elbow and made another puff at the elbow like that and wound up with 38 inches and then +1 for seam allowance. And of course, now that I'm doing it, I'm really winding up at 39 inches. So maybe I'll just make it 40 by 40 and that way I don't have to worry about what side I'm working with. What that also allows me is that extra width on the side to use as needed. So for one thing, the design of this has gussets in the armpits, which are like little pieces that are square and that give you more mobility. And so I can cut my gussets out of the side strip along the sleeves. Also, if I need some bands to gather things to, which I think I'm going to, especially at the wrist and possibly at the bust as well, we'll see. But I will have the extra fabric from the sides there to make into those bands. And with those dimensions, that pretty much uses up my fabric. So yeah, let's go ahead and just start hopefully ripping this into rectangular pieces, because that would be so much easier. This should rip, and we will get started with the chemise. So as you could see by that little clip, ripping does not appear to be working on this. I think it might be because I'm so close to the edge, but yeah, it doesn't appear to be working. So I'm going to attempt to draw threads, which I kind of just did just now and then didn't tell you what I was doing. I was trying to pull out a thread that was visible up here, and that creates a visual line for me to then cut on, but that thread just ripped. So you can see, I think, yeah, you can see that little line going across right there. That is where I have just drawn it. Now I need to find it to pick it up to draw the rest of it out, but obviously these are not the strongest threads, so doing that may be a bit of work. I much prefer ripping fabric, but this one just doesn't seem to want to. So time to go find a tiny little thread and draw it across the whole length of fabric and cut this into squares and rectangles. So to do this, you are going to find that thread and you are literally going to pull it as if you are gathering, and ideally the thread doesn't break, but if it does, then you have to go and pick up more of it with a pin. So that is what I had just done, was I picked up the little tab where that ended with a pin. Oh, and it just broke again. So if it does break, you can just slide off where you've already gathered, and it will give you a little bit more of the line to find. And we're going to see if the camera even picks this up at all. I then need to go in with the pin and find a little bit of that thread. I don't know that this is focusing, so I do apologize. But then I grab that thread and I continue pulling, and I do that every time the thread snaps until I can make it all the way across the fabric. Oh, and it just snapped again. So I'm going to keep working at that line, and then I will cut on that line with my scissors. So I'm about halfway through pulling that line, and I decided to try and see if, as it gets farther away from the edge, if this fabric would rip. Unfortunately, I did the first rip off camera, but it did actually rip. Obviously, it leaves a not very nice edge when it rips with lots of threads and everything, but it's still so much better on my sanity that I think we're going to attempt to rip this the rest of the way. That's better. So that one edge was cut really unevenly. It looked like the other edge may have possibly been ripped already, like at Fabric Wholesale Direct. However, the other edge is, of course, where I cut my swatch out of to burn test it. So it's a flat edge except for a little bit, which would work for the sleeves, just not for the body. Now we have a nice straight edge. Now I can go down, measure like the 43 inches or the 50 inches in the case of the front, and do another little notch and rip that all the way across. So from here, it should all rip nice and easily. I am questioning if I went overly wide on the sleeve fabric, but I think we're gonna go with it. And so let's start putting everything together. Yeah, I've decided that the sleeves are too wide, so I'm gonna cut them a little bit narrower. I'm actually gonna cut them 7 inches narrower, because then I can cut the gussets out of the excess over here. And because the gussets, at least in the pattern, are 7 inches wide. So that's why I'm doing that. And that way, if I need to, I could take the excess that was alongside the sleeves originally and potentially add it back into the width of the chemise as a whole. I don't think I'm going to, but I might. It would give me that extra like 12 inches or something here. Unfortunately, it's not long enough to do 2, like 1 on front, 1 on back, so it would just have to be on 1. But just in case I want that little extra bit of width. So I kind of held the front piece up to myself and looked at like the fullness of it. And obviously it looks a lot more full where it's doubled over, but I was like, it's really not super full. So anyway, I decided to add the little extension bit over here. So we got an extra, I don't know, like 12 or 14 inches to this. And now we can go ahead and put all of this together. I also decided to actually cut 10-inch gussets. So I cut them from the remaining length from this piece here, because I realized on her tutorial that she wrote that apparently the original pattern that she was taking it from had larger gussets, and so I'm doing larger gussets as well. So now these get cut into 2 triangles, and we go ahead and we put everything together, and hopefully I'll be able to follow her instructions well enough that this will actually all work out. I have now folded over the excess in the front piece. I've pressed everything and then I folded it over and pressed this edge. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my gathering stitches. This is a little bit contrary to Festive Attire's tutorial because she actually has you doing the gathering stitches after you put all the body pieces together, but I wanted to secure this fold. So my first gathering stitch is going to be 3/4 of an inch from the edge, and then I'm going to run 2 additional gathering stitches. I think a 1/2 inch separating each one. I think that's what it is. It might be a little bit wider. I have to run the first one first and then decide. And then those will eventually be secured in place, I think with trim, but we'll see. So this is what the front panel looks like now. There are 3 sets of gathering stitches up here. And then I have also folded the raw edge inside and done a little row of stitching right along the edge there to make this top section double layer. So now I'm going to kind of gently pull up the gathering stitches just to make this piece more manageable, and then we can go ahead and combine it with the other sides. I have French seamed my gussets onto the sleeve pieces, both of them, and that means it's time to add everything together, the fronts and the backs, with the sleeves, but actually that's going to happen tomorrow because it's late and it's time to go to bed. Well, I've just finished pinning the last bit of trim onto the second velvet sleeve, and I have this much left. So good use of this random vintage trim that I had in my stash. And I've decided that I'm going to take this with me to an audition tonight so that if I have time to spare, I will sew that on by hand along with the rest of the lacing rings that go at the top of this, because then this lower sleeve will be done. So now back to the chemise. Oh, and I also have this much left of the beaded trim from the 3rd package that I ordered because I decided not to do the vertical part on the other lower sleeves. So I think I don't need the 4th package yet, unless I decide to do something weird headpiece wise. But I think that I can use this little bit left because I think I have applied it onto everywhere that it goes. So I have to admit, I'm feeling very confused about how to add like the front to the sleeves. And I think the confusion is coming from the fact that I have already finished this edge and done the gathering. And that is supposed to be done afterwards according to Jen's pattern. Jen as in Festive Attire. So I'm kind of thinking like, well, maybe I should, since this is a selvage edge over here all the way down, the way it is not on, I think, one side of the back where I added the extra. But otherwise they're selvage edges. So I'm kind of thinking like, well, maybe I should roll hem, finish this entire edge off on both sleeves and the back, and also that one side of the back, and do that first, and then attach it here with a normal seam, because then it will already be finished off and I won't need a French seam. Because I was thinking at first like, oh, maybe I should have dropped this down a little enough for me to roll hem this section. But she says that you're supposed to put the front 2 inches up past the gusset and the back actually goes 6 inches past the gusset. And then also she says that if you are finishing any side with a ruffle like this, a self ruffle as opposed to a separate ruffle like on top of a band, that you should give yourself a little bit more room so that your gathering stitches don't hit the gusset. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking maybe we just finish that part off first and then construct everything. It's a little counterintuitive, but let's try it and see if it works. So all of the shoulder and gusset seams are now complete. And so the instructions now has me basically like fold it right sides together like a T with the neckline as the T, and then do up the seams of the underarm of the sleeve all the way down the side on both sides. So I'm gonna do that. This one does involve a raw edge, so I guess this is gonna have to be French seams. Basically, I've been doing French seams wherever I have to and regular seams wherever I can, wherever I have the selvage or finished edge already. And then once I do that, then I can gather up the sleeves and put them probably into some sort of like a little band with a ruffle at the edge. That's probably, I think that's what I'm gonna do. But I hope that I did the rest of this correctly. This has honestly been kind of confusing. All right, the chemise is looking a little more like a chemise. So I'm going to go ahead and hem up the edge of the sleeves now and run gathering stitches just probably like 0.75 inches, maybe actually a little bit further, maybe like 1.75 inches from the edge of those hems. And then we'll see how I'm going to fix all of my gathers in place. So I'm kind of torn on whether I should gather all of this to like a twill tape, like this is just the Dritz twill tape, or if I should use like a trim instead, and or both. I'm kind of thinking we should do a twill tape base because I don't know about the durability or washability of a trim like this. And while I think it is so pretty, the idea of like running this over each of the gathering stitches, I think that's so pretty. What if I put it in the wash and it gets ruined? And then I have to completely redo all of the gathers because it's not fixed to anything. So I think what's going to happen here is that I'm going to take some twill tape that is like the width of around my hand so that I can still fit my hand through this. This is the cuff, and do that for each cuff and gather it down to the twill tape. Then I'm going to try on the whole chemise with the gown, and we are going to set the neckline gathers so that it's actually like the right size all the way around the neckline for this gown. And at that point, I will measure that and then do twill tape for that size as well. Again, probably just this. I would rather use cotton twill tape, but I don't have any and I don't know how quickly I can get it here. So if I can get some of this in cotton like tomorrow on Amazon, I will do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to use this. Once I put that over on here, I'm going to see if I still like the idea of also doing like the silver trim on top, and then I will probably stitch that on top. Also, I still need to get more of this because I think I showed you the one that came from Amazon that I did not like, but I didn't like it. So supposedly Walmart has this. I'm going to go to Walmart tomorrow and attempt to get more of this. Wish me luck. Well, I've placed an order for cotton twill tape, so that should be here tomorrow, and we will get to that tomorrow. But also, I'm trying to figure out how these pieces are going to go together. I had wanted this to slip up inside this, and I did add lacing rings to both sides, but I feel like there's still a lot of gappage. I don't know how well you can see it, but like if we pick this up, it's kind of dark, so maybe it doesn't show very much. But yeah, you can see the gappage. And I'm just like, I wanted the versatility of having the rings, but that looks pretty awful. So I will try it on with the chemise before deciding to completely change it. But right now I'm kind of feeling like that needs to be completely changed and maybe just like whip stitch together. I also did put rings up here in order for those to go into the shoulders. Who knows if that's going to work too, or if it's going to look like that, which we don't want. So we'll see how that goes. So I placed my curbside order pickup for Walmart and naturally just got the notification that they don't have the trim. They gave me a substitution, or at least that's what it says in the email. I just feel like I don't even want to drive over there now because yes, I did need some other things, but that was the entire reason really that I was going to Walmart. And it's frustrating because now either it's not going to match because, I mean, I've already cut all of these. I want to use them. Or I could use the one that's kind of like this, but it's wider, that is from Amazon. I don't know if I have shown you a side-by-side comparison, but that is it. So it's similar, it's just not the same. And I liked this nice delicate one better. Oh, and guess what's still not here? My Amazon order of the twill tape that I actually need to, you know, proceed with this at all. Oh, and obviously that means that I also can't then sew this on top of the gathers like I was intending to. What they have given me as the alternative is like a flat trim. I guess the other option is that I could actually go inside the Walmart store. I had done curbside pickup. They could not find the thing that I ordered that they were supposed to have had. But maybe there's a chance that they just couldn't find it and it's still there. So I guess I could go inside and see if I could find it. That just sounds not fun. Well, I've come here to the very loud Walmart and unfortunately my microphone has no charge. But I'm looking in the ribbon section right now and it doesn't look great. I am not seeing the one that is supposed to be here. I'm not even seeing a space for it. Unfortunately, in fact, I'm not even seeing the one that they supposedly gave me that is in my order curbside because I'm doing this first. Oh, actually, there's more. I think this is what they've given me, which, like, I suppose that will work, but it's definitely not what I want. Oh, dang it. This is it. I'm pretty sure that's what I wanted and what they're supposed to have. And it's not here. What a bummer. The problem with this in comparison is that it just reads very white, I feel like, compared to what I have already. I know that this is doing the worst job focusing on this, but yeah, it's reading very white. I just don't think that's gonna work. I almost think I'd prefer the stuff at home than this stuff. I've actually been trying to look through these top bins, but most of them are connected to each other and then the pegs stick down into the shelves. So it's really, really difficult to get them down. And I've only been able to pull like 2 of them down, even though I'm tall. So that's annoying because of course nobody works here. Taken them all down. It's not there, so we're out of luck. Well, I looked on every aisle in the craft section, pulled down all those bins. They don't have it, so obviously their online inventory was wrong. We don't get to have any more. No other local stores have it. I really don't think I want the substitution, so I think I am just going to refuse the substitution and go with that stuff from Amazon, but I'm very disappointed. I really was thinking that, hey, Walmart was actually going to come through. Not so much. My Amazon order did wind up coming very late last night after going to Walmart. So I did actually already put that twill tape inside. I literally just seamed the end, as in like right sides together, and then put that little like overlappy bit, the tails of the basically seam allowance of twill tape, facing the inside of the sleeve. And then I don't know what kind of stitch this is technically called. My machine seems to call it a feather stitch, and I don't think you're going to be able to see the white on white detail on here, but I did use a kind of a funky stitch to hold everything in place. It looked like in some of the ones that I was seeing, like from the Borgias, that they used a stitch that kind of looked like this over the top of their gathers. So this is what I plan to do on the bodice as well. This is what it looks like from the outside. And yeah, that is all set on the cuffs. So now we have to put this on and pull up all of the gathering strings so that the neckline fits the right amount. So I'm going to put it on with the gown itself, which is now sitting up there because I finished sewing on all of the rings inside the armscye. Hopefully they work for both types of sleeves. I have like ones for the puffed sleeve, and then I have other ones for the fitted type of sleeve. But we're gonna try everything on and we're gonna just see how it goes. So not too shabby at all. I'm looking forward to how this is all coming together here. So I think I have this pulled up pretty much to where it needs to be. The back, I honestly can't tell because it's fully underneath the back of the gown, which is fine. I just need to make sure that it's not like gonna sag down because it's too long or anything like that. So I think I'll probably just take a measurement from approximately like across my back and do it to that measurement so that it doesn't slip down. And then I do need to definitely distribute the gathers of the shoulders a lot more. But then I think once that is distributed and stitched in place to a tape, that should be fine. It was really the front that I was more concerned at than anything else because the front is actually performing a job. You know, it's keeping this decent and I like what it's doing, so that's great. I'm a little concerned because this is already warm and I am in my house. Now granted, it is a heat wave outside. It's like, I think it was 90 degrees today, but I have had AC running in this room and I'm already warm in here. So that maybe doesn't bode well. It was also just a little bit difficult to get it on because of trying to figure out the chemise. I obviously haven't poofed this one up and my laces are definitely too long up here. So this is like lagging, sagging, and it's weird because the chemise is very sheer back there. So it's like, hey, here's some sheer armpits. I know that that will provide me with coolness when I'm out and about and there's a breeze, but also like, weird breeze to the armpits. I don't know, that seems a little strange. I obviously still have to try on the other sleeve combo with this, but I think that once these ties are tighter, that will be good here. I do think that this is probably approximately the right length of ties, though possibly once I move this up the arm a little, this might have to get extended just a little bit. I think it's about like 2 inches or so in between the top and bottom piece right now. So yeah, I'm gonna cut a bunch of twill tapes to the right length. I'm gonna stitch those in place with that feather stitch on my machine. And actually, I guess I should also take this time while it's on to decide if I want to layer trims over this or not too. I do think it would be pretty. I just don't know about the durability of that, because obviously a chemise needs to be very washable. Putting silver metallic trim on it makes it a lot less washable. So I'm gonna play around with this in the mirror and see how that looks, because I like the concept, but I don't know that it's a good actual practice. So this is what it looks like with all of the twill tapes pinned into place. Let's go ahead and stitch it. Everything is all stitched in place to the twill tape now across the front, back, and the shoulders. I think I am gonna add the trim. Hopefully that's not a bad idea. I just feel like the more trim, the better. I'm going to stitch it on probably with like the longest length machine stitches that I can if it looks decent. And that way it can be removed easily if it needs to be. Hopefully it won't like ruin the whole chemise going through the wash. I don't plan to dry this in the dryer, so like that shouldn't be an issue. It would just be if somehow metallic trim bleeds, which I don't think that it can. So hopefully we're okay there. So yeah, I'm gonna add it just on the front because the rest of it really doesn't show. And then the last other thing that I have to do with this chemise is that it doesn't have a hem yet. The front is actually a little bit too long because of the way that it went into the shoulders. The back wound up shorter than the front. So I have to cut off the excess of the front, do a narrow hem there, and then other than that, I guess it's just try on the puff sleeves with the bodice and hopefully everything works. Well, while I do think it would have been prettier with the really delicate little trim, this does still look really pretty and catches the light really nicely. So let's go ahead, hem up the bottom and put everything on. I've decided to try and make a quick balzo, which is that kind of round poofy headpiece thing that goes like on the back of the head. So I didn't document the beginning of this, but basically this started as one long strip about like 31 or 32 inches long. I think it was 32 inches long. And then I applied ribbon on it, and I'm trying to get it so that the ribbon basically like this bottom part of the ribbon will match up with the top part of the next ribbon. Hopefully that works out. Once I applied all of the ribbon, I just sewed it on top stitching. You can see it from the back there. I then seamed up the end and put the last little bit of ribbon that like went over a seam. I put that so that it would kind of hide where that join was and the ribbon would be continuous. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in a very weird hot dog style like this, and I'm going to seam up most of this seam and hope that I can then turn it right sides out. But I feel like as I'm saying that that's not going to work. So we're going to try it and we're going to see if that works. But I think I might have done my physics wrong again. Yeah, nope, I did my physics wrong again. This is why I shouldn't be sewing after midnight. So I guess I'm going to undo the like side seam that I had done in here so that I can actually pull this tube all the way through, and then I will have to hand sew that shut. So, oh well, I was trying to avoid that, but I guess I can't. So I turned it around the right way and then re-sewed up the hole that I was trying to turn it through, and then turned the whole tube, and then I was able to get a little bit of this part done on machine. And so now I've been stuffing it and it looks like garbage. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna use this. I don't know if it's like understuffed or if I didn't do it maybe wide enough around. That is what I'm thinking is the case. Like it should have been bigger around like this, but it just looks really wonky. I think it does need a little bit more stuffing too, but it just looks really wonky and I don't think it looks nice. I think it's also a little bit too big, to be honest, for my head, like a little bit too long around. I don't think I'm going to be using this for this photo shoot, or probably ever. So yeah, I'm not really loving that. Like I love it in concept, but not in function. So I think we're gonna scrap this, at least for now. Maybe I'll work on it in some way for the future, definitely shortening it by probably an inch and trying to rejudge the stuffing, because what I don't like about it is how like square it looks. It just looks very segmented, and I think that's because of doing the ribbon on here first is my guess, and then also probably just stuffing placement in general. So I'm gonna figure out something to do with my hair, but I do have the other sleeve option on right now. Somehow, maybe it's just that it's cooler today, they're feeling less warm than the sleeves yesterday. The temperature in the room is supposedly the same as it was yesterday, and these actually feel less warm. So that's interesting. They are the like poly micro velvet, whatever that sort of velvet is made out of, but they are lined with cotton. And also trying to get my chemise sleeves into this was a bit of a thing, but it seems to be all good. So the big question will be, can I switch these sleeves out for the other sleeves myself while on the photo shoot by myself when these are individually tied in at each ring, and the other ones would need to be too. And I don't think I can tie and untie those without taking off the entire dress, which I don't want to do because there's really not a place to do that. So I may not be able to shoot both sleeves today is what I'm trying to say. And then it's supposed to rain the rest of this weekend. So let's see what this reveal looks like. So I'm not really a fan of what I wound up with for this hair. I took a fake braid, but I feel like it looks very fake. So I think what I'm gonna do in the future, but I don't have time to do now before I go take these pictures, is I think I'm actually gonna take the silver trim and make kind of like a mesh out of it to make a sort of like faux Juliet cap situation that can sit around back here and kind of hide a lot of the mess. That happens a lot on the Borgias. I don't know if it's at all historically accurate, but it's cute and it's easily packable and I think it will look good. So that will be something that I will add to this in the future. So here's the thing. You might be hearing some tapping noises. That's because I came all the way out here and about 15 minutes or so into my like 45-minute drive, it started raining. And if you remember from the first video of this series, this fabric doesn't like water. So it wasn't supposed to rain today, was not in the forecast, but it is raining. There's like 1 or 2 covered areas in this park, like gazebo type areas or stuff like that, that I might be able to use, maybe. But I still have to get myself over there. I do have an umbrella, but still this dress, even though it's not big, it is bigger than my umbrella. It's just frustrating. But here it is. I've been planning this day all week to shoot today because it meant that the 85-degree heat was done and the rain wasn't here yet. So I'm going to do my Duolingo and see if the rain stops. And otherwise I might try and run for the gazebo and do my pictures there. But this doesn't bode well. Oh, and yeah, I'm going to have rainbow nails for my pictures. Basically, I think this is going to be a big test as to whether water spots will come off, because it has been on and off raining, and so I was undercover, then I came out under this bower, which is not undercover. It has rained a few drops, it has stopped raining, it's all over the place. My sleeves are coming untied all on their own, so that's a good thing to be aware of. I'm debating about trying to get my other sleeves out of the car and taking a few more pictures with those, but I don't even know if I can tie them on myself. There's maybe one or two other areas that are covered or mostly covered that I could potentially take some pictures. So I think I might attempt it with those sleeves, and then we're gonna call it. I do just have to say though that I have not been over to this park in a year, maybe more, and this bower had kind of been under construction for a while and not very nice, and it's so pretty right now, so that's really nice. I'm about to give up. I cannot get the tail on that sleeve. Okay, and apparently I need to be able to get at least down to the very last one to be able to even get the sleeve off my arm. And because this one did not come untied on its own, I don't think that's gonna happen. My elbow is stuck. Well, I think this is the end of the photo shoot, and I think I'm driving home like this. Okay, so a minute later, I was actually able to free that arm. Finally, I was able to pull that ribbon. And the bottom one over here, I was able to reach, which was why I then went and tried this one again. But this one, I can't reach. And I cannot get my arm out of this sleeve without undoing this one freaking ribbon. That's not it. That was the other one. Oh my god, I did it. Of course, now I'm starting to feel drizzle again. Let's see if I can get the other sleeves on. Otherwise, I give up. I'm worried that if I tie this in a double knot, I will never get this off again. But I can't seem to tie a bow. Okay, we're tying a loose double knot. There's no way that I'm going to be able to get the back one. You can maybe see from the spots that it's also started to rain again. Okay, so there's no way I can do the back ones. Let's go take a few more pictures before it really starts raining again. Well, here's an awkward thing. They've started using this building again. This building used to be empty, so there's literally a person sitting at a computer behind a window behind this camera. Well, I must have caught them right at the end of their shift, but that was a little awkward for the first 5 minutes or so that I was at this final location here. Obviously, not the most ideal circumstances for this shoot. Hopefully you got a good view of this dress anyway. You're going to be seeing a lot more of this dress because I'm going to be wearing it to the Ren Fair. I'm going to be wearing it to Ireland. I will probably be wearing it on other occasions too. I do feel like it's comfortable. It's fitting quite well. I know it's going to be really nice and packable because it's going to pack up a lot smaller than an English Tudor gown of this era, for example. Hopefully all of the water spots will come out. All of the smaller spots that were happening as I was getting lightly rained on have already come out, it seems, or at least to the naked eye. However, there were larger areas of wet that got on here as well, and you can see those are still very, very obvious. The hem is also quite bad. So we'll see how that goes, but I mean, let's be honest, it might rain at the Ren Fair, it might rain in Ireland. So I want this to be functional and comfortable. The one thing that's kind of weird to me just wearing this, just because I'm not used to it, is I do feel like it has a tendency to want to ride up just a little bit. And I found that particularly in the car, it was digging a little right here. I'm just not used to this higher waist. And when I do wear a higher waist style, say like the Regency or something like that, I'm actually wearing a long line corset with it. So everything is still very much contained underneath. Whereas this is not. Like all of the containment stops right here. So it's just a little bit weird for me, just something that I'm not used to. But I do think that it will probably be very comfortable at the fair. I mean, it's cool today with this rain. It's like 68 degrees. So it's hard to say. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'm very happy with it. Obviously, when I wear this, normally, I'm not going to be changing sleeves midway through. And I'm probably not going to be alone either. So obviously, this is not designed to change sleeves midway through by myself because it's impossible to reach the back. Like it's just fully, I cannot do that. You saw how much I was struggling with that sleeve change. And hopefully I gave you a little funny bit of content there. I guess a couple of other things. I'm really happy with the doubling up layer of the chemise here of the wall. I think that that worked perfectly well to not be see-through over the bust. Yay. And I really do like the application of the trim. Hopefully it will wash okay. That's going to be the really big question for the trim. I will probably still make that sort of Juliet cap out of like sewing together the bits of the trim in the future because I think that that will do a much better job for my hair than the fake hairpiece. But yeah, I'm excited to get a whole lot of use out of this. I can see myself wearing this for years, especially at the Ren Fair, because it's really pretty and really princessy without being like a giant Tudor gown. And so I think it's going to be super functional as well. So hopefully you have enjoyed this video and this entire series, it's been like 5 videos. If you did like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, usually with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays and sometimes with additional costuming or sewing related content, especially shorts out on Saturdays. But I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube below the video. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Jean and Kim. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!